Every single night, a man lay in bed and deliberately rewrote his own past. Not in a journal, not as a metaphor. He closed his eyes and literally revised the events of his day, changing failures into successes, arguments into agreements, rejection into acceptance. And he claimed this practice didn't just change how he felt, it changed what actually happened next. His name was Neville Goddard, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why his nightly revision technique might be one of the most powerful psychological tools ever described. Here's what makes this so strange. Neville wasn't some naive optimist. He was a disciplined mystic who studied for years in Barbados under an Ethiopian rabbi named Abdullah. He lectured to packed audiences across America from the 1940s through the 70s, and his single most recommended practice wasn't visualization, it wasn't affirmations, it was revision, the deliberate rewriting of your memories before you fall asleep. But why the past? Why not just focus on the future like every other self-help teacher? That's the part most people get wrong. And it reveals something fascinating about how your subconscious mind actually works. See, Neville understood something that modern neuroscience would later confirm. Your brain doesn't clearly distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a real one. When you replay a memory, your neurons fire in nearly the same patterns as when the event originally occurred. This means every time you recall a painful moment from your day, you're essentially reliving it. You're reinforcing the neural pathways associated with that failure, that embarrassment, that rejection. You're training your subconscious to expect more of the same. Neville's insight was radical. He said, stop reinforcing what went wrong. Instead, before sleep, take the events that didn't go your way and reimagine them exactly as you wished they had happened. Someone rejected your proposal at work? Replay the scene, but this time they say yes. They shake your hand. You feel the relief and excitement in your body. An argument with your partner left you feeling drained? Revise it. See the conversation ending in laughter, in understanding, in a warm embrace. The key was feeling, not just picturing a different outcome, but actually feeling the emotions of the revised version as though it were real. Now here's where it gets interesting. Neville didn't frame this as positive thinking. He framed it as an act of creation. He believed that your consciousness is the fundamental reality and that the outer world conforms to your inner assumptions over time. Revision wasn't about lying to yourself. It was about planting a new seed in the fertile ground of sleep. And there's a reason he insisted on doing this right before bed. The state between waking and sleeping is called the hypnagogic state. Your conscious mind relaxes. Your critical faculty, that inner voice that says this isn't real or that could never happen, goes quiet. In this drowsy window, your subconscious is wide open. Whatever impressions you feed it in those final moments carry enormous weight. They become the blueprint your mind works with overnight. If you're finding this fascinating, consider subscribing. We explore ideas like this every week, the kind of knowledge that can genuinely shift how you experience life. Neville told a story that illustrates this perfectly. A woman in his audience had been estranged from her daughter for years. They hadn't spoken. The bitterness felt permanent. Neville told her to revise it. Every night, she was to imagine her daughter calling her, hear her voice filled with warmth, feel the joy of reconciliation. She did this faithfully for about 2 weeks. Then, one afternoon, the phone rang. It was her daughter, calling to reconnect. No explanation, no dramatic catalyst, just a sudden, inexplicable urge to reach out. Coincidence? Maybe. But Neville collected hundreds of these stories over decades of teaching. And here's the part most people overlook. Revision doesn't just work on big dramatic events. Its real power is cumulative. Think about this. Every single day, small things go slightly wrong. A coworker's dismissive tone, a moment where you stumbled over your words, a plan that fell through. Individually, these are nothing, but collectively, they build a story. And that story becomes your identity. I'm the person things don't work out for. People don't take me seriously. I always mess up at the worst moment. Revision interrupts that pattern at the root. By rewriting those micro moments every night, you stop the accumulation of negative self-evidence. You replace it with a new internal narrative. And Neville argued that your external reality has no choice but to eventually reflect your dominant inner state. Modern psychology actually has a parallel concept. It's called memory reconsolidation. Research shows that every time you recall a memory, it becomes temporarily unstable. Your brain essentially resaves it, and in that process, the memory can be altered. Therapists use this principle to help patients with trauma. You recall the event in a safe context, pair it with new emotional associations, and the memory is reconsolidated with less emotional charge. Neville was doing this instinctively, decades before the science existed to explain it. But there's a deeper layer here. Revision isn't just about fixing bad days, it's about who you become. Every night you're faced with a choice. You can fall asleep replaying your frustrations, your worries, your regrets. Or you can deliberately choose a different version. The person who practices revision nightly is, over months and years, building a completely different internal world. Their baseline emotional state shifts. Their expectations shift. And when your expectations change, your behavior changes in ways you don't even notice. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. Opportunities you would have missed suddenly become visible. So what was Neville really doing every night before sleep? He was refusing to let the day have the final word. He was taking authorship of his own story, one revised scene at a time, not by denying reality, but by insisting that reality isn't finished until consciousness says it is. And that might be the most unsettling part of his teaching. If your inner world truly shapes your outer experience, then every unrevised memory of failure is quietly building more of the same. The question isn't whether revision works. The question is, what story are you telling yourself tonight?